You can have a valuable home in Hermosa Beach, strong equity, and a market that still looks scarce on paper, and still not know what will happen once your price is public. That is the part most sellers do not feel until the listing is live. Your schedule starts moving around showings, the house has to stay ready, pets, kids, work calls, parking, privacy, all of it starts to bend around the sale. And then the question becomes very simple. Are serious buyers going to step forward, or are they going to wait and compare? That is why the goal is not just to list. The goal is to get a clean first answer, not a guaranteed outcome, not a promise that every home sells fast. A clean first answer means the market gives you useful feedback early enough that you can protect your leverage, your timing, and your next move before the listing starts to feel exposed. And in Hermosa Beach right now, that clean first answer depends heavily on the lane your home is actually in. A single family homeowner in East Hermosa is not facing the same buyer depth question as a condo or townhome seller in Hermosa Valley. A high value single family seller in the sand section may have real buyer action, but still cannot assume the address removes comparison. So if you're thinking about selling in the next 3 to 6 months, the question is not simply, is Hermosa Beach still desirable? The better question is, will this month serious buyers validate my actual lane before public exposure creates stress? Because April gave us a clear reason to ask that question. Across the 3 Hermosa Beach areas that I'm reviewing today, the sand section, Hermosa Valley, and East Hermosa, single family homes had 16 active listings, 11 closed sales, and 9 pending sales. Condos and townhomes had 21 active listings, 4 closed sales, and only 1 pending sale. That split matters because closed sales tell us what buyers already absorbed. Pending sales tell us where buyers were writing contracts in April. And right now, those 2 signals are not evenly distributed across every lane. I'm Israel Hernandez, and in this update, I want to help you separate 3 things. First, where Hermosa Beach is still giving sellers credible validation. Second, where low supply is not the same as deep buyer demand. And finally, where buyers appear to be comparing harder before they reward the first public price. The foundation is supply, but supply by itself is not the whole story. When I talk about months of supply, I mean how much choice buyers have relative to what is actually selling. Lower supply can help sellers because buyers have fewer alternatives. Higher supply gives buyers more room to compare your home against the next option. But low supply does not create serious buyers by itself. That is the center of the Hermosa Beach market right now. And if this decision is already becoming real for you, call me. Before you choose a public price, we can pressure test buyer depth, active competition, pricing room, and whether your lane is likely to give you that clean first answer or whether it could expose you to more showing burden than you expected. And if you're interested but not ready for that conversation just yet, start with HomeBots. Use it as a lower pressure way to keep an eye on your home, your equity position, and the market signals around your timing. Now, the clearest proof that buyers are still validating some lanes is the single family side, especially where closings, pending sales speed, and price retention line up. East Hermosa single family homes are the tightest example. In April, there were 3 active listings, 4 closed sales, and 3 pending sales. The supply was 1 month, and sellers waited a median of 11 days active, and the median seller received 104.2% of both original price and last list price received. That is a strong current buyer signal. It does not mean every East Hermosa home gets the same result. 4 closings and 3 pendings are useful but not universal. But it does show that when the price, condition, and competition set fit the buyer pool, buyers are still willing to act quickly in that lane. For a homeowner, that changes the selling experience. An 11-day median active time is not just a statistic. It can mean fewer weeks of keeping the home ready, fewer schedule interruptions, fewer weekends built around showings, and less time wondering whether a quiet launch means the market is rejecting the price. But speed cuts both ways. If the market can give you an answer early, the first public price matters even more. You do not want the strongest buyer window to become the moment buyers decide to wait. The high value single family lane in the sand section is also showing real current action, but with a different kind of pressure. In April, the sand section single family market had 9 active listings, 3 closed sales, and 6 pending sales. Supply was 2.8 months, homes were active for a median of 18 days, and sellers received 100% of original and last list price received. The median sales price was $9.25 million with the price per square foot at $2,894. That tells us buyers are still riding in the high value lane. 6 pending sales is the strongest pending count amongst the single family areas in this data. But the buyer pool at that level is still going to compare. A buyer can admire the location and still look hard at view, lot, condition, outdoor space, parking, layout, and monthly payments. And the home next door that feels like a cleaner yes. The sand section can support seller confidence, but it does not remove the need for precision. And price per square foot needs care here. I would treat that $2,894 per square foot figure as a market signal about property mix, size, location, and what buyers absorbed in that particular sample. I would not use it as a shortcut for pricing an individual home. You cannot safely multiply a market figure by your square footage and call that your launch strategy. The buyer still decides against the homes available when you go public. Now, the contrast is where the clean first answer idea gets more complicated. Hermosa Valley single-family homes had a strong closed sale story, but a thinner current contract signal. In April, Hermosa Valley single-family homes had 4 active listings, 4 closed sales, 0 pending sales, 2.5 months of supply, and just 6 median days active. Sellers received 99.3% of original and last list price received. The median sales price was $3,375,000 with price per square foot at $1,213. That is not a weak read. The homes that closed moved quickly and price retention was solid. But 0 pending sales in April matters because it does not prove buyers disappeared. It does not define the whole lane, but it does tell a homeowner not to build a strategy only from what already closed. Because this is where sellers can get caught. You may see fast closings and solid price retention, and those are useful signals. But if current pending activity is quiet, the smarter question becomes, are buyers still writing now in my exact competition set, or am I relying on last month's validation? Because those are 2 very different questions. And if you're living through the sale, the difference matters because a quiet first week can start to feel very different when you're cleaning for showings, moving pets around, working around kids' schedules, taking calls from the car, and trying to decide whether buyer feedback is just noise or an early warning. That does not mean panic after a quiet stretch, but it does mean you need to know what a quiet stretch would mean before week 1 begins. This is where the property type changes the test. A condo or townhome seller in Hermosa Beach should not automatically borrow the single family logic. Across the sand section, Hermosa Valley, and East Hermosa, condos and townhomes had 21 active listings in April, 4 closed sales, and only 1 pending sale. So the segment is not frozen. Deals did close, buyers are still present, but current buyer confirmation is thin. And that is the part a seller needs to respect before choosing a public price. Sand section condos and townhomes show why I want to be careful and not flatten the whole condo and townhome market into one negative story. In April, sand section condos and townhomes had 5 active listings, 1 closed sale, 1 pending sale, 1.6 months of supply, and 11 median days active. Sellers received 102.2% of original and last list price. That is a strong result on a narrow sample. It tells us buyers can still validate a condo or townhome when the right package meets the right buyer pool. But 1 closed sale and 1 pending sale are not enough to claim broad strength across every condo or townhome. Hermosa Valley condos and townhomes are more mixed. There were 10 active listings, 2 closed sales, 0 pending sales, and 5.8 months of supply. Median days active was 9, and sellers received 103.3% of original and last list price. So closed sale validation exists. The price retention was strong. The median active time was short. But 5.8 months of supply tells us buyers had more choice, and the 0 pending sales tells us current buyer depth was not confirmed in April. That is exactly why one number cannot carry the whole story. A seller could look at the price retention and feel confident. That confidence may be reasonable, but if buyers are not writing new contracts at the same pace, the launch strategy needs to be pressure tested against active competition. The biggest caution is East Hermosa condos and townhomes. In April, that lane had 6 active listings, 1 closed sale, 0 pending sales, 3.8 months of supply, and 206 median days active. That closed sale showed 84.1% of original price received and 93.4% of last list price received. The median sales price was $3.36 million with the price per square foot at $850. This is a serious caution signal, but it is also a thin one. One sale cannot define the whole East Hermosa condo and townhome market, so I would not use it to make a sweeping claim about every owner in that lane. But I would also not ignore it. The gap between original price received and last list price received suggests the original pricing ambition was not fully kept. And 206 days active is not just a number, that is months of public exposure, months of second guessing, months where the home is visible, buyers can track the listing, and negotiation leverage can feel different than it did on launch day. That is where the first public number becomes real. It can become leverage or it can become exposure. For condos and townhome sellers, the buyer comparison is often very specific. Buyers are not just asking, do I like Hermosa Beach? They are comparing monthly payments, HOA profile, layout, parking, condition, outdoor space, stairs, storage, and all the other properties that may give them more certainty for the same money. That does not make condos and townhomes weak, but it does make the first price and the presentation more exposed to buyer selectivity. That is the clean first answer test. Not whether Hermosa Beach is valuable, because it is. The test is whether serious buyers in your lane will validate the price while your leverage, privacy, and next move timing are still protected. So if you're watching this and trying to identify which risk feels more relevant to you, text me. I can help you identify whether your property is more likely facing a buyer depth test, a pricing pressure test, or a comparison sensitive launch before the market sees your number. The bigger economic backdrop helps explain why buyers may be acting this way, but it does not replace the Hermosa data. The macro report shows the 30-year fixed mortgage rate at 6.30%, the Fed target range at 3.5 to 3.75. March job creation was 178,000 and the housing affordability index was at 113.7. Affordability improved year over year, but it was still pressured month over month. So I would not use that to predict where rates will go next, but it does help explain buyer posture. Buyers may still be employed, they may still want the beach lifestyle, but they may still be willing to pay for the right home. But payment sensitive buyers are usually less tolerant of waste. They are less tolerant of a price that assumes perfection. They are less forgiving of condition issues that are not reflected in the asking number. They are more likely to compare the total monthly cost against the next best option. That matters in the high value single family lanes, and it matters even more where condos and townhomes are already showing thin current contract activity. So if there is one overarching concept to take away from this extensive exploration of market mechanics, it is that this market does not care what you originally paid for your home. The market does not care what you spent on the kitchen remodel, and it certainly does not care what net proceeds you mathematically need to achieve to afford your next house. The market is merely a weighing machine. It only measures the intersection of this month's available liquidity and this month's active buyer pool. And that is the sober truth. You can't argue with the structural reality of the data. You can only look at it clearly, understand the mechanics of the market, and decide how to position yourself to protect your outcomes. Thank you for spending this time analyzing the data with me before you make your next move. Look past the macro headline. Dig into your own local micro data. Check the actual temperature in your own backyard. And if this is a real decision for you, call or text me. My contact information is in the description. We'll see you in the next deep dive.